Hello everybody, and welcome to my World Trigger chapter number 231 review. This chapter is titled, The Away Mission Test Part 28. So if you couldn't tell from that title, we are now 28 parts into the World Trigger Away Mission Test arc here. And being that we got a chapter here in, what is it now, March? It's time to talk about the chapter for this month. And this month we only have one chapter, but it is a nice sized chapter. Altogether, it is about 23 pages, so a few more pages than a regular serialized chapter, but still not that, about 45-ish to 49-ish pages that a monthly chapter is. But still, we have just one chapter, and we have some meat on the bones, and that's more than we had for last month in February. So to get started with it, so this time, as per normal, I do not remember all of the character names, but I actually took a step towards remembering them, which was writing a few of them down, so whenever I'm going through a chapter, hopefully I won't have to divert off into everything. Well, this time, we pretty much start off where we ended last time. So right now, they're doing the battle simulation exercises for day 3, and right now, Suicide Squad 7 is on the third match of the day. And here during this third match of the day, they are fighting against Murakami Squad, right? Murakami, the dude who has the side effect, the sleep side effect, right? That makes him remember everything. So as we're going through, the beginning about 4 pages of this chapter, there's really no dialogue, it's just action, right? We see everybody playing the games, we see a bunch of units fighting each other. So, for instance, we see, Oki is up on a building, sniping some people. He snipes at a Ko. Ko defends. Katori comes for him. Two Katoris come, and also an Osamu. They attack him. Suwa attacks same one, and eventually one of the Katoris uses a scorpion and ends up defeating Murakami. And this just keeps going on and just keep going on some more as more people get bought and more things happen over time. So it just keeps building up, right? Over time, we see that one of the guys, Daichi Susumi, gets killed by Narkitora. We see that they have Nasu on their side for their backup unit. We see that Kumagai is there and Kuruchi is there too. And they're all just fighting, and eventually, at the end of the match versus Murakami Squad 10, Suicide Squad 7 wins by a victory of a 9-unit gap. And of course, this is because of their new strategy to where each person controls a squadron of people that they would work best with, the ones who they know how they work, right? So Sue's like, nice, we wrecked them. We see, oh no, Yui's here, and she's just like, that win couldn't have gone more according to plan. Oki's just like, yeah, we really took the fight to him. We had more efficient teamwork than theirs. And it's almost like, I'm thinking that a standard squad that makes neat, careful moves is going to have a really hard time against our new tactics. And then we cut over to Murakami Squad 10, where they're all sitting down at the table, and Murakami's just like, this feels like when Mizukami Squad beat us to a pulp. And Kumagai is there, and she's like, I had the same thought. We also see here that Kuruchi is here, and he's just like, their teamwork was much more precise than yesterday, like, much more. And Hayami, the operator, is like, that's not something that you achieve from a little bit of training. Kumagai comes back in, and she's just like, so you're thinking that Suwa did something like Mizukami Squad, and must have come up with a really killer strategy? And Tsusumi's there, and he's just like, nah, this seems less like Sue's plan and more like one of old Four Eyes' bright ideas. Kuruchi's in like, Four Eyes? Ah, you mean Makumo. And we see that Tsusumi is there, and he's just like, yeah, that's what my guy calls him. And of course, we know that his regular squadron commander is Suwa, so we obviously see that in full force, right? But Hayami's just like, say that Mizukami and Suwa squads are using the same strategy or even completely different ones. Our job is to figure out our own special strategy now. Do I have that right? And Murakami's just like, no. Searching for that answer at this point doesn't really mesh with this squad's style, right? And Kumagai is just like, yeah, for sure, that'd be a lot to ask right now. just says, time is definitely not on our side right now. And to end off this sort of talk here, Murakami says, keep going on as planned. We'll fight with the strategies that we as a squad have prepared. And everybody's just like, got it, let's do that. We didn't get some dialogue from Osamu again, or some narration, I should say, which says, Match 4 versus Kodera's Squad 6. Both squads played cautiously up to turn 3, leading only to a 1-unit difference after the dust settled. On turn 4, we took the lead of our combo moves, and on turns 5 and 6, we used a wire-filled zone strategy to cut off the opponent's path of attack, and we won with a 6-unit difference. So, of course, we see again that they are now 1-2 in a row, and that's what Katori even says whenever we cut back. And Yui's just like, well, rip to our buddies who gave us those hot tips to begin with. And Sua's just like, whatever, they can't be salty over the fair fight that we just had. Then Oki makes a point that Makumo's wire setup is great for defending once they've taken the lead. And whenever you add Katori's aptitude skills to the mix, they're even more solid because it's a strat that involves waiting around no matter what. And we get a little idea here that says 1 additional action token is consumed when an enemy enters a cell with wires, meaning that if they have 1 less action token, that is potentially 1 or a few less moves that they can make altogether. Also, what Oki says is he's just like, you want to whip out even more of those wires against a squad of a lot of attackers, and Osamu's just like, yeah, definitely. Now we cut over to Kodera's squad, and he's just like, man, they're tough, as we see Okodera, and he's just like, perfect teamwork, no wasted moves. How did they improve so much in one day? Miura's here, and he's just like, beyond the info that we just gave him yesterday, Squad 7 must be running some sort of secret strategy. But Okodera's like, well, the same goes for us, too. Yellover looks at Katora, and he's just like, any thoughts, Katora? That's some face you're making. And she's just like, it's hardly anything. But then Kodera says, it's all good. We're still on pace to reach our goal. Any thinking and reflecting can come after we see the final scores of today. So it's time to focus up for the remaining few matches. And everybody, again, is just once like, okay, let's do it. So we didn't see some more narration, of course, from our man Osamu himself. He's just like, match 5 was versus Kuruma's Squad 5. On turn 2, some Kodai and Yuba units brought the fight to us, but since my units used shields to defend, our mini squads didn't break that formation. On turn 3, while my units were still getting attacked, my squad mates swooped down and in sync and came out on the top with all of the damage. And after that, more of a lead was made, and ending with an 8-unit difference, which is a triple win, which is, of course, what Katora says at the beginning of it. She's like, triple win! And Yui's just like, we're on a roll, definitely. Sua then makes a point that, like, man, I'm realizing that Katori's units are really easy to use. They're very quick on their feet. And Osamu's like, yeah, that's the value of an all-rounder. They know how to do everything, so because of that, they can make decisive actions. And she's just like, come on, keep coming with the praise and everything. But she also says, on the other hand, Osamu, your guys are better at not smacking the enemy with Ray Gust. She's like, since it just uses more action tokens, you know? Safer to make you debate and full guard mode. And Yui makes a point of, yeah, you're the squad's mighty bulwark. And Osamu's just like, yeah, we can do that and use that for the next match. We didn't cut over to Kuruma's squad, where he's just like, well, we assumed that things would work out like yesterday and wound up going after Makumo too hard. One thing to note here is that Kuruma is the actual captain of Suzunari 1, if I'm not mistaken, that squad that Ko Murakami's on. Somebody else who's being a captain right now. But we then see there is Hokari, and Hokari's just like, double defenses, Raygus? That's a really tough nut to crack. And Yuba is also there, and Yuba being Yuba, and he's just like, a creative solution with a guy for such little try-on. Kodai is also here, and he's just like, even setting that aside, their moves were way smoother than yesterday. Something else is definitely going on here, some sort of hidden exploit that only Mizukami and Sua squads have figured out. Hokari again is just like, do you think we could use it too, assuming these exploits exist? And Kodai is just like, I'm not so sure of that, but what if we're being judged on whether or not we can catch on to the trick? And Yuba then just screams, which in a dot bubble, and he's just like, shape up, Korai, quit getting thrown for a loop here. If you don't know anything about their tricks and their exploits, your job is to boost your own evaluation in every single way. We also then see, what's his name, Kuruma again, and he's just like, as long as we produce good results with our steady, sober approach, I'm sure we'll walk away with decent evaluations from the judges. After all, it's not all backdoor exploits that make an organization run well. And we then see Okari again, just like, what if you straight up ask Sua or Mizukami? After a test over, even now seems awkward. Yuba's is like, exactly, then do you think you can make use of that info to improve yourself? And we see that Korai is just like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. As we see the operator, Osano, say, when you start using that noggin of yours but don't commit all the way, you get thrown up. So stick to being dumb. Koala, which is what she calls Korai, being that she is part of the Coma Squad, and the Coma Squad says some weird stuff. So, and Korai's just like, hey, thanks for the dynamic advice. Everybody seems to talk it out, and at the end, Korai, right? That's his name? Yeah, Korai. He's just like, yeah, this is wild, but it was pretty much like this from the beginning. But more and more, I'm hoping this squad here can pull off a really big win. Then we cut over to the management HQ desk, as we see Netsuki is here, and he's just like, well, they finished the first 5 matches of the day, and we're on the verge of a turning point already. And what's his name? Director Kinuda is just like, we didn't expect the wins to be so one-sided. Our initial prediction is that we'd see more draws as the days went on, but at this rate, we may see a squad rack up 4 or more wins in a day. And Jin is here, and he's just like, especially since Suicide Squad 7 already has 3 today. Which is interesting that we don't get a note on how many Mizukami actually has. Because, of course, we've seen how Sua has gone today, but we don't see how Mizukami's doing, and Mizukami is really the other big rival with the battle simulations. Of course, we know that a few chapters ago, there was a whole thing with Mizukami and Toroya, and learning to play the Sims and figuring that out, so I don't know if there's performances suffering now, but still it's an interesting thing to think about. We cut back over to Netsuki, and he's just like, their strategy involves making 3 of their captains in their own right, and he's sitting there and he's like, didn't Kurosawa mention something similar? Director Shinoda starts to speak up, and he's like, on the whole, it's not looking like squads prepared for an outlandish strategy for the final day are faring against the ones who simply honed their more ordinary tactics. And Jin is like, for sure, Kitazoe's Squad 4 and OG Squad 2 fit that description perfectly, as we see how they both have 2 wins, 2 draws, and 1 loss, and they are teams that simply honed their strategy to the utmost degree. Director Kinuda starts to say again, it also bears mentioning that these 2 squads are producing results with strategies that aren't asking much of their members. For that, I give them more credit than Suicide Squad. And Jin's like, let's just hope they can keep it up till the end. Shinoda is like, normally this would be the exact point which we'd hit him with a special assignment. And everybody looks over to Commander Kido and they're like, well, shall we today? But Kido's like, not today. I want them focusing on the battles at hand, so no special assignment. Everybody's like, alright, very well, as Director Kido is just like, with so many more units to handle, each agent really has their hands full. And Jin then brings up a point. Kido, is there anyone you're keeping on your eye today in the matches? And he's like, we're seeing dramatic turnabouts versus yesterday, especially with Mizukami's squad. And one we know struggling today is Ninamiya's Squad 8, as we get a panel of Chika. And that's the chapter. So this chapter has definitely a flow to it. We open up with the battle sims, and we see who they're fighting. We have the squad initially talk about it, and we go to the other squad so they can talk about it. So in the first match, of course, we have versus Murakami squad, where we have the battle, we have Suicide Squad analysis of it, and we have Murakami squad analysis of it. And that literally happens every single time. Kodera squad, and then at the end, Kuruma squad again, before we get this sort of insight with Korai, where he's sort of told, like, hey, keep doing what you're doing, and it's sort of a sentiment that doesn't really come clear with how World Trigger's been working with this. We're definitely getting focus on a few characters that don't really often get focus. I mean, of course, Okudera and Korai are both two characters who are mentored by Azuma, and of course we know that Azuma's end goal is to create good border agents and to train them to be leaders of their own, but still it's just a little interesting that we are getting this deep dive into their characters. And then we have the big meeting with all the directors, and it's a really interesting note that in the background, Netsuki is like, well, do we hit him with a special assignment? And Akito decides not to because he wants him to actually pay attention to battles at hand and have sort of a fair day of fighting without anybody being thrown out to do the special assignment. And to end it off with, and we know the one that is struggling today is an enemy of Squad 8. Now, why are they struggling? Is it mostly because it is a sniper-only squad with nothing else besides a bunch of snipers and one of, what's his face? What's the enemy? A shooter? So it's okay then. So is that the reason they're struggling? Is it because of their squad formation? Or is it because of Chica herself, as we see here in the promo image, right? Of course, we know that Emma has had some focus in this arc so far with the special assignment thing. So is that going to come into play again? But overall, this is a good sort of chapter. I mean, it's as good as a World Trigger chapter here if this arc is going to be. Some more fighting, some more talking out about it, and at the end, do we get a chapter next month, or 2 months, or 4 months, or 8 months? We'll see. But for now, that'll be it on this World Trigger chapter, number 231. And again, next time we will have the away mission test part 29, I'm guessing. Being that we are now 28 parts into this. But with that, that's going to be it. I hope you enjoyed this review, and this is going to be Glowplasma 231 out.